Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, the Game Boy Geek here. Recently we've been doing a series called Reimagined Retro Board Game Classics, where I look at all these classic games like Monopoly and Clue and Connect Four and even Bingo, Shut the Box, and we look at games that these games have inspired in the modern era, even in the last couple years, and how they're using those game mechanisms to have more modern and more interesting and bigger and grandiose games. Today we're taking a look at a crown jewel, Yahtzee. This is a game that I played a ton as a kid. We're going to go over some history and show you some games that still use this mechanism. So here we go. Now Yahtzee, I first want to say that this was one of my most played games of a kid. It maybe was my most played game because it's so fast. We would play this all the time on family game night, which was once or twice a week for my entire childhood. Yahtzee is just, I have a special place in my heart. I played it a ton with my late mother. She loved the game, I loved the game. We played it together. In fact, in 1986, there was a travel version that had come out, and it was like the dice was in this little contraption where you like roll your hand over it and the dice don't fall out, but they actually sort of spin a little bit. And we used to play this in the car together on road trips, on summer vacations, and we just played it a ton. And Yahtzee holds a very special place in my heart for that reason alone, but also because I have so many memories playing this with my mom, my grandma, my brothers. It's special. So let's talk a little bit about the history of Yahtzee. It was designed by a game entrepreneur, Edwin S. Lowe, in 1956, and it still kind of holds up. Thanks for people. Tons of games are still using it. It was a development of an earlier dice game such as Poker Dice, Yacht, and Generala. Now, Yahtzee was marketed by the E.S. Lowe Company from 1956 until 1973. In 1973, the Milton Bradley Company purchased the E.S. Lowe Company and assumed the rights to produce and sell Yahtzee. Now, during Lowe's ownership, over 40 million Yahtzee games were sold worldwide. And according to the current owner, Hasbro, as of 2007, 50 million Yahtzee games were sold each year. And it's just amazing. I don't know what the most realistic, newest numbers are, but it's one of those games that has a huge history, and it's used so much these days. Now, it's used so much that when you're explaining a game, a lot of times you just go, okay, so you're going to have these dice, and you're going to roll it Yahtzee style, and everyone pretty much knows what you're saying. You don't usually have to explain, well, what do you mean Yahtzee style? Yeah, you roll the dice, you keep what you want, you roll it again, you keep what you want, you roll it again, you then use them. It's just like, it's the Yahtzee mechanism. Or you'll say something like, hey, you get to roll the dice Yahtzee style. Like, it's such ingrained into board games. It's one of the most important games ever because of that. Now, even Board Game Geek has like categories and mechanisms of games, and there's like 100 plus mechanisms that you could select from. They even have its own mechanism for Yahtzee, essentially. It's called Dice, Reroll, and Locking. And there's actually 452 credited games that actually have selected this mechanism as being in their game. Over 450. And keep in mind, folks, like, not every person that puts a game up on Board Game Geek goes through every single possible mechanism of the list and go, oh, what's in here? What's in here? A lot of the games that use dice, the Yahtzee mechanism, just has dice rolling as a mechanism. They didn't select the dice re-rolling and locking. So the 452 is a very conservative number. I bet you it's 3 or 4 times that at least of how many games use this mechanism. So we're going to show you some games that do. So here we go. Now the first one might be the most popular. It's the one that's really brought Yahtzee back on the map from back in the day. It's called King of Tokyo. Now this one is also people call Yahtzilla instead of Yahtzee, Yahtzilla, which is kind of cool because it's King of Tokyo is like it's Godzilla essentially. It's basically King of the Hill where you're rolling dice, Yahtzee style, and you're doing different things like you're hitting other monsters and you're trying to either make all the other monsters get to 0, so you're the last one standing, hence King of the Hill, or you're trying to get to 20 points the fastest. And it's interesting because if you go into Tokyo, you get a point, you get some points, and then as you hit, fight and hit monsters, you're hitting everybody that's not in Tokyo. So it's good to be there because you're doing a lot of damage, but everybody else that on their turn, when they're hitting the person in Tokyo. And of course, once you get hit, you can come out if you want to and such. But you're using Yahtzee dice, you're gaining health back, you're hitting people, you're gaining energy cubes that you're spending on cards for special abilities. King of Tokyo is sort of, it's its own right, a mainstay in the board gaming hobby. It was designed by Richard Garfield, who did Magic the Gathering. He's one of the most prolific designers ever that uses this Yahtzee mechanism. And King of Tokyo is probably one of the most popular games that has reused that Yahtzee mechanism in a way that has brought more and more people into the hobby. So King of Tokyo is one of those fun games. It's a dice chucker. It's fun. There's tons of expansion monsters, tons of expansions that give you more special abilities and things like that. But King of Tokyo is one of those populars that use it. Now, there's a recent game came out just a few months ago, in 2025 here, called Pina Coladice. Pina Colada dice, or Pina Coladice. It's tricky to say. In this case, it's about Pina Coladas, and you're rolling dice Yahtzee style, but this one is very quick and easy. It's very light, it's 15 minutes long. It's even shorter than the original Yahtzee. Now here you're doing Yahtzee style, but you're picking same types of things. Pairs, two pairs, full house, five of a kind, straights, same things as Yahtzee. But when you pick it, you're putting your glass, your Pina Colada glass, on sort of a grid of tiles, and you're basically getting points for that. But each kind of thing, like a pair or such, can only hold so many people. And it scales for player count, and you're getting a certain amount of points. But it doesn't just stop there, because this game is sort of an abstract game where if you get 4 in a row in any direction, you win immediately. The game ends. So you're trying to like roll for things before you even roll. You know what you're trying to get, because you're trying to get it, to get 4 in a row. And as you score in different spots, not only do you get the points on the tile, you also get the points for each adjacent tile, I think even including diagonally, that you already have one of your glasses on. So you're trying to like clump yourself together to get a bunch of combo points, but you're also trying to get 4 in a row. So it takes like this simple Yahtzee mechanism and adds sort of an abstract game to it. It looks nice, it's fun, it's really good. Pina Coladice. This next one is another tiny little one, Sausage Sizzle. This is from 25th Century Games. Now in this one, it uses a slight variant on Yahtzee where you must lock in at least one die. Where in Yahtzee you didn't have to do that if you didn't want to. And so it's sort of a variant on Yahtzee. Now in this case, you're trying to lock in a critter. There's different critters, and it has to be one that you haven't scored before, because then over the entire game, you will score each critter once. And once you've scored like an alligator, you can't use them again. So your decision space gets a little tougher as the game goes on. And you're trying to get, so like if you're going for alligators, you're trying to get as many alligators as you can as you reroll. But you're also trying to get high numbers, because as you roll the other dice that are just plain numbers, you're going to take the number of critters that you rolled, let's say 3 alligators, by your lowest food value. Maybe your lowest value is a 3. So 3 times 3, you get 9 points that round. But now you know you can't score alligators again for the rest of the game. However, it's called Sausage Sizzle because there's sausages on these dice. Now, normally sausages are 1, but if you get all sausages, I mean all 4 numbered dice have sausages on them, there's 7 points each. So it's like a press your luck mechanism that makes you tempt yourself to try to get sausages. And like there's 2 different types of dice. There's brown dice and there's red dice for the numbers. 2 of the dice have 1 sausage, one side of it's, 1 out of 6 is a sausage. The other one has 2 out of 6, so a third chance to get it. And so there's another set of decision space where it's like, the game's pretty easy, it's simple, you're just chucking dice, your decision space is changing, but you got that press your luck element and the different number of sausages on the different dice to try to get the sausage sizzle. Cute little fun one, Sausage Sizzle. Now this next one is a larger game. It's still only about 45 minutes, but it's a bigger game than just rolling and getting some points. It's called Bad Company. Now in this game, you're basically trying to get the right gangsters, you're trying to, thieves I should say, and you're trying to fulfill heists. And so here you're rolling dice, and then if there's one player that's the boss each round, if you don't like the dice, you can pay $1 to re-roll any number of dice. And you can pay to re-roll as many times as you can afford. So here it's not like Yahtzee, you just get 2 re-rolls. Here it's like, well, you can re-roll as much as you want, it's gonna cost you. So that gives you another sense of economy and decision space that really changes things from that Yahtzee mechanism. And then once you're done, so you're going to re-roll as much as you want that you can afford. And then the boss basically uses the 4 golden dice to form any 2 pairs. So they're taking the dice that are finally there, they're taking 2 pairs, they're saying what the 2 pairs are, you're adding the values of the pair of dice separately, and then they're basically announcing those results to others. Like, hey, 6 and 4. And then everybody else is activating their gang members, 2 and 4, they're thieves. And they're going to get you different resources like gloves and masks and flashlights and lockpicks. And you're trying to get those to cover up and finish heists, which you're going to get points and such. Now, there's actually a lot more going on in this game than this, but that's like the core of it. There's also, you're trying to beat the cops, you're trying to, upgrade things, you're trying to get necklaces of being in the lead for certain things and having the most cards. You're trying to engine build where some of your gang members can have multiple cards underneath it. So when you activate that one, it gives you a bunch of stuff. So there's a lot here. There's a decent amount here that still uses that Yahtzee mechanism. This next one is from Bezier Games. It's called Favor of the Pharaoh. Now here, much like a previous game I mentioned, you have to lock in at least one die each roll. That's sort of slight variant. You can't just keep them. You can't just roll them all. And so in here, much like Yahtzee, you're using things like pairs, 2 pairs, 3 of a kind, straights, 5 of a kind, and you're doing that to get all sorts of different things. Sometimes you're getting more normal dice. Sometimes you're getting special dice that if you roll on a certain side, lets you do different things, like turn a die to any face you want, or do things like that. Sometimes you're getting ongoing abilities that allow you to, hey, once per turn, you can flip a die to the other side. Or you can change its die value. You get these little tokens. Hey, I want to change a 3 to 1. I'm going to spend 2 of these. I'm going to change this from a 3 to 1. So you have a lot of mitigation there. Sometimes you're getting these tiles that trigger powerful one-time use special abilities. Now what you're trying to do is work your way up this pyramid, because as you're getting more and more dice, you'll be able to unlock better and better combos. And finally, you get to the top of this pyramid, and you're trying to basically get 7 of a kind to activate the queen. And then everyone has one final roll-off. And whoever has the most on that last roll-off wins the most of a kind, like 7 of a kind, 8 of a kind, 9 of a kind, 10 of a kind, if you have enough dice. And this is sort of a stand-up moment where everyone stands around the table, hooting and hollering, giving it their best turn to try to have the most. Another cool thing about this is it has like a variable setup where it has different tiles each game, which gives you different things to go for, whether it's straights or small straights, large straights, things like that. This is a fantastic game that, again, uses the Yahtzee mechanism, uses a lot of the combos that Yahtzee does, but it has manipulations and ongoing abilities, special abilities, all these different things for a very big peak moment ending, which is, in my opinion, everything here is better than Yahtzee, but it used it as very much the core of the game. This next one is a little bit of a small, slightly heavier game, but this one is more of a sort of a mass market game too. It's called Dice Throne, and there's many different versions of Dice Throne that have come out. Season 1, Season 2. There's Marvel Dice Throne. In 2025, there's going to be X-Men Dice Throne. Now, in Dice Throne, essentially, you're trying to defeat your opponents by getting them to 0 health. And essentially, you're going to be using the combination of dice symbols or numbers to activate your hero's abilities to attack your opponents. And so, you get the Black Panther. You've got all these different things in the Marvel one. And essentially, I mean, it is Yahtzee in a very different way, where you're doing it to activate abilities, to combo things together, to defeat your opponents. So a very different way of using it, but one that's extremely popular, Dice Throne. Now the last one I'm going to mention here is Tiny Epic Galaxies. This one is from Gamelin Games. This was their first Tiny Epic games. They now have had, I don't even know, maybe 12 to 15 of these things that are like games in a small box that like unfold, or there's the cards like fold out. They come out, so there's like your table is full. That's why it's called Tiny Epic. It feels like an Epic game, but it comes in a small box. Now in this case, it uses the Yahtzee mechanism, where your first reroll is free, and then all others cost 1 energy. So you're getting, you have unlimited rolls if you have a lot of resources. And you're going to be using these dice for different things, like moving a ship to a planet and getting what's there. Or you're using it to get on the orbit track and orbiting, and then to get on there, and then you're going to be using some of the dice values to gather resources. You're using like energy or culture. And you're using economy dice size or diplomacy dice size, depending on the planet, to move further along that planet to finally colonize it, sort of a race. And if you colonize that planet, you get that planet. It goes down below you. And now there's one of the sides of the dice, which is utilize a colony, that allows you to activate anything on any of the planets that you've colonized. So it's sort of like an engine building game as well. And you can also even spend 2 dice to convert an unused die to anything. So again, dice mitigation with the Yahtzee mechanism. You're also trying to complete secret missions. So this one is a very popular game. I believe it's the highest rated game from Gamelin Games. It was their first Tiny Epic game. It's still, in my opinion, one of the best. It might be the best. It's in my top 3 for sure of their games. But again, uses the Yahtzee mechanism in a very interesting way. It also had a follow mechanism where if somebody does something specific, everyone else could also do that thing. kind of like in Puerto Rico and such. So lots of things there. So that's Tiny Epic Galaxies. Now, in summary here, there's so many games that use Yahtzee. Again, 452, maybe, probably way more than that. First of all, I couldn't cover them all, so tell me in the comments, what's your favorite game that uses the Yahtzee mechanism? Now, there's even games with heavier weights, meaning like it's a beefier, heavier, thinkier game, more complex. On Board Game Geek, there's a game called BIOS Genesis, which is a 4.39 out of 5 on the heavy scale, which means it is a heavy game. Uses this Yahtzee mechanism. One that's also heavier, but very popular, Tidal Blades. It has a 2.94 weight reading, so it's basically like a medium weight Euro game. And in this game, it's listed right around the top 1,000 in Board Game Geek of rank, which means it's very popular. It's almost impossible to get into the top 1,000 these days. And Tidal Blade uses this as well. So there's lots of heavier games out there that use this Yahtzee mechanism as well, which is awesome because it came out as such a just a little light little party game for families. So please let me know what's your favorite game that uses the Yahtzee mechanism. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships with board games by helping you find the next one you love. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and they just launched their 4.5 Kickstarter, which will introduce the new Galactic, Mycroft, and Watson Game Toppers with interchangeable rail inlays, as well as new game mats, miniature gaming terrain packs, leg kit options, dining covers, accessories, and amazing package deals. Search for Game Toppers on Kickstarter or go to GameToppersLLC.com.